Good afternoon or good evening or good morning, depending where you are in the world. My name's Harmy Baines, and I'm the OET course director here at West London English School. Well, I hope you're keeping well wherever you are. If you're preparing for the OET, hopefully this lesson will be able to help you. We're going to focus on speaking today, and we're going to be looking at some useful language which you hopefully can find, which will hopefully help you in the OET speaking subtest. So as usual, what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And we're just going to quickly run through the OET, and then we're going to do a couple of tasks as well. So a lot of you will know that OET, it's a consultation. The speaking exam is a consultation. It's a role play. And it's important to remember it's profession specific. So if you're a doctor, you'll be playing the role of a doctor. If you're a nurse, you play the role of a nurse. If you're a pharmacist, if you're a vet or an optometrist, you'll play that role. So speaking and writing, remember, is different from reading and listening. So it's specific to your profession. And what happens is that you'll go into a room with an interlocutor. They're not an examiner. It's kind of like a teacher. They're actually going to record you. So this person isn't an examiner. We call them an interlocutor. They'll take your details and they'll ask you they'll ask you some warm-up questions. These are unassessed. It's only 2 or 3 minutes, and it's just really to get you relaxed. After that, you'll be given a role play card like this, as you can see. You've got 3 minutes now to prepare your role play. It's really important you put these 3 minutes to good use. You get given these 3 minutes for a reason. So it's really important that you use these 3 minutes. Don't stop after a minute or after 2 minutes and say, okay, I'm ready. Make sure you use the full 3 minutes. We'll have a look at ways you can prepare during the 3 minutes in a second. After your 3 minutes prep time, well, then you do the role play. The role play is 5 minutes long. You then return your card, you get given a second card, and you do the whole thing again. So you do 2 role plays. And the whole thing will take you about 20, 25 minutes, maybe half an hour. So that's really the format of the speaking subtest. Now, like I said, you've got 3 minutes to prepare, and it's really important you put the 3 minutes to good use. Think about what kind of patient you have. You know, every role play is different, just like the writing. Every writing task is different, and every speaking task is different as well. Try to work out the patient situation. Is it a serious situation? Is it critical? You know, and how is the patient? Is the patient anxious? Is the patient okay? Is the patient going to be difficult? Think about how you're going to start the role play as well. You get marks for opening the role play appropriately. So that's something important to consider as well. Think about how long you'll spend on each task. You'll notice you have tasks, and as you plan, some tasks you'll realize you can do fairly quickly, but some require a little bit more. So think about how long you'll spend on each task. Think about your language as well. You may need language of reassurance. You might need to be using some kind of sympathetic phrase as well. So think about the language you're going to use as well. And also importantly, you can ask the interlocutor any questions you like during those 3 minutes. If you don't know the meaning of a word, if you don't know the pronunciation of a word, you can ask the interlocutor. Once the role play starts, you can't ask questions. So put those 3 minutes to good use. Remember, you can highlight things on your cards, you can make notes, you can underline things. And then after that, you've got your role play. And this is a 5-minute dialogue. And this is really important because it's not you speaking for 5 minutes. That's not what the OET examiners want. They want a patient-centered approach. And what that involves is a dialogue. So let's move on, because in this lesson, really what we're going to do is we're just going to look at some useful language. And this is the marking criteria. This is a whole separate lesson, so we won't go into it, but you can see it's divided into two. You've got the linguistic criteria and you've got the communication criteria. I'm just going to zoom in and just show you something about the linguistic criteria here. This is the linguistic criteria, and you can see at the top, appropriateness of language. And I've just highlighted the top band. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in here. This is what it says for appropriate, excuse me, appropriateness of language. It says entirely appropriate register, tone, and lexis for the context. So that's quite interesting. Appropriate register, tone, and lexis. Well, lexis, they're talking about vocabulary. That's all they really mean. Appropriate vocabulary for the context, for the situation. Tone, of course, is referring to the intonation of your voice. But also we have something here, register, appropriate register. So they're talking about really formality here. And this can be a tricky thing because you're dealing with a patient and you want to be polite, but you don't want to be overly formal. So in a way, it's kind of the opposite of your writing. In your writing, you're being very formal, but you're writing to a medical professional. In this speaking exam, you're talking to a patient, a non-medical person. And something you need to do is build up a relationship with the patient. And in order to build up a good relationship with the patient, it would help if you're not too formal. You've got to kind of get that balance right between being polite and being casual. So when it says appropriate register, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about formality. Now imagine you're doing your role play and the consultation begins. Which is better? What's your problem? How can I help you? Now, we all know how can I help you is much better. What's your problem? It's the wrong register. It's just way too casual and way too informal. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's, well, it's kind of almost rude really, isn't it? It's just too direct. And it's just something you wouldn't really say to a patient. You may be with your friends or something, but with a patient, it's the wrong register. Too informal. Think about this one. We need to have a discussion regarding your medication, or we're just going to have a bit of a chat about your medication. Now, what do you think is more appropriate in the OET speaking exam? And something you can do is imagine you're the patient. I think this is something that really helps me a lot. I always put myself in the patient situation. And I think, what would I prefer here? Well, you can see the first one, it's a little bit formal. The second one is much more casual, it's more relaxed. And you can see that with the language as well, where it says we're going to have a bit of a chat. It's just, it's something you wouldn't put in your writing, of course, but with speaking, it's a nice little phrase to use. So, yeah, you don't want to be overly formal. And that's what I say, it's quite difficult to get that balance right. You need to be polite, excuse me, you need to be respectful as well. But you need to be quite casual as well. Remember, you want to be approachable. You don't want the patient to be scared of you. If the patient has any questions, they should be able to feel comfortable to ask you any questions. So let's have a look at some language then. Excuse me. Indirect and direct language, this can really help you in the OET exams. Now, it's common you're going to ask questions in almost every role play I've seen in. You have something where it says find out, and you've got to gather information. So questions are really important. And there's a great opportunity to get marks by using some indirect questions. Direct questions, we've got here, what's your name? Can I ask you some questions? When did the symptoms start? And what we can do, we can actually make them indirect by using, if you like, these sentence starters, question starters, things like, could you tell me? Do you mind if? Would you mind? So what's your name? If you start with, could you tell me your name, please? Excuse me. Can I ask you some questions? Do you mind if I ask you some questions? Okay, and you can see also with would you mind, excuse me, would you mind telling me when the symptoms started? So just using this kind of indirect language can be really, really beneficial for you. It's softer, it's more gentle, and it's a little bit more polite as well. Excuse my cough. Okay, let's do a quick task. Guys, feel free to type your answers into the chat, or any questions you have, please do put them into the chat as well. You've got to decide these sentences and questions, are they direct or indirect? If you have a look at number 1, it says, would you mind if I asked you some questions regarding your symptoms? Okay, I think you can see clearly we've got that starter, would you mind if? So yeah, this is an indirect question. Okay, guys, you've got a minute to do this, and the clock is ticking. Okay, that's great. It's brilliant. In fact, if we quickly go through these, then number 2, in your own time, could you describe your symptoms for me? This is an indirect way of asking a question, and actually quite a nice little phrase at the beginning, in your own time. If you're dealing with a sensitive issue, if your patient is upset, it's just a really nice way. In a way, it's a nice way to show sympathy as well. So it's a nice little question. How would you rate the pain, number 3? Yeah, this is a direct question. Number 4, I'm afraid I need to ask you a personal question. Yeah, you can see that I'm afraid it makes it indirect as well. But again, another nice way of asking kind of a personal or sensitive questions as well, if your patient is upset or needs reassurance. Number 5, is this something you've experienced before? Yeah, this is a direct question. Would you say the symptoms are getting worse? Indirect. Number 7, have you thought about trying to cut down on your smoking? Again, indirect question. Nice way to make a suggestion, in fact. Have you thought about? And then it's followed by ing. It's quite a nice question, in fact, when you're trying to make a suggestion. Number 8, if you don't mind me saying, yep, okay, this is an indirect question. And then number 9, yeah, and again, you can see it's a long sentence. In fact, excuse me, it's a long sentence, but it's indirect as well. Okay, so that's great. Your answers look pretty good. And we'll keep moving on as well. And let's look at a little bit of language as well and some grammar. And we're just going to do another task about making indirect questions. We've got direct questions. Here we've got something from the present simple. What medication are you on? And it's just a simple question. You can see it's direct. We have a question word. And a question word is what or who, why, where. Then got medication, then the verb and the subject. If we want to turn this into an indirect question, for example, we might use, would you mind telling me, or could you tell me? You'll notice the word order is slightly different. What medication you're on. So you can see when we make the indirect question, we actually change the subject and the verb. It goes the other way around. So this is a present simple question. It's an important thing to remember, because remember that even though it's a speaking exam, the examiners are listening to also your grammar as well. It does make a difference. So make sure you can form your questions accurately as well. So that's the present simple. Let's look at another example. We've got a direct question from the present perfect. How long have you had these headaches? Again, if you look at how this question has been formed, we've got our question word. We've got an auxiliary verb, which is like a supporting verb. Then got the subject, and we've got a main verb. And what we're going to do, again, we're going to turn it into an indirect question. We've got, would you mind, or could you tell me? And again, you'll notice that we change the subject again, but this time we change it with the auxiliary verb. So would you mind telling me how long you've had these headaches? You've had, or you've had, if you use the contraction. And remember, when you're speaking, it's fine to use the contractions. You wouldn't do that when you're writing, but in a speaking exam, it's fine to use the contractions. So that's the present perfect. So this time we're changing the subject with the auxiliary verb. Let's look at one more example. We've got direct questions. When did the pain start? So we've got past simple this time. Again, you've got the question word, and we've got, again, auxiliary, and we've got a main verb. The main verb is start. Auxiliary, it's just the supporting verb, really. We're going to make this indirect. Would you mind telling me? Or could you tell me when the pain started? And you can see what's happened. All that you have to do with the past simple is just remove the auxiliary verb and put the main verb into the past tense. So there's no real change in word order with the past simple. Okay, yeah, feel free to type in any questions into the chat as well. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're just going to do another quick task. Considering what we've just done, you're going to now just make some indirect questions. I think there's just 4 or 5 questions, and you've got 2 minutes. So number 1 says, how long have you had the pain in your back? You need to make this indirect using can you tell me? Okay, guys, you've got 2 minutes, you've got plenty of time. Okay, that's brilliant. So let's just check the answers then. That was the first question. How long have you had pain in your back? The pain in your back. So can you tell me how long you've had the pain in your back? And I use the contractions here because with speaking, I think it's kind of more natural to use the contraction. So I didn't say you have, but you've. But both answers are perfectly fine. Okay, number 2, how long has your back been troubling you? Would you mind telling me how long your back's been troubling you? Number 3, where does the pain start? Got a present simple question here. And there are 2 verbs. What the auxiliary does, and the main verb is starts. So could you tell me where the pain starts? If you remember, we just don't need the auxiliary verb, like the past simple example we looked at earlier. What's the pain like? Number 4, would you mind telling me what the pain is like? Okay. And finally, where do you get the pain? Could you tell me where you get the pain? Again, we're just taking out the auxiliary verb do. Could you tell me where you get the pain? Okay, so just some practice with indirect questions because they are nice, and indirect language, it is nice language to use as well. It is formal language, it is quite professional as well. So it's something you can put to good use to in your OET speaking subtest. What we're going to do is we're also going to just look at some open questions as well. And we've just got a short task for you to do again. Again, this is from the criteria. And this is from the communication criteria. And you can see here I've highlighted D2. So you can see what it says. It says using initially open questions, appropriately moving to closed questions. Well, closed questions are kind of more restricted, kind of a bit like yes/no questions, really. And open questions are just allow the patient to express themselves a lot more. So what you need to do in the OET exam is you've got to balance using open and closed questions. And you can see here, you actually get marks from moving from open to closed questions. We'll have a look at that in a moment. We'll have a look at an example. But first of all, let's just practice again open questions, because once again, it's just really worth making sure you can grammatically form correct questions as well. So this is a tricky task, but you seem to be pretty good, so I'm sure you can manage. What you're going to do, you're going to match the open questions with their answers. There is a time limit again, guys. I think it's only a minute. You'll see at the top, you have questions at the top, and at the bottom you have the answers. If you look at number 1 in blue, it says hair, around the front hair, around the forehead. Now, you got to work out what's the question. Yeah, around the front hair, around the forehead. So which one is the question? Okay. Yeah, most of you have got it. Whereabouts is the pain? And again, it's another way of asking a question. Whereabouts, it's quite unusual, isn't it? It just means where, but another kind of way of saying where. So whereabouts is the pain? And you can see it's an open questions. All of these are open questions. So guys, if you can, read the answers and then match it to the questions. You've got a minute and the clock is ticking. Okay, the time is up. Yeah, some of them are tricky, and it's not as easy as you might have thought. Yeah, but a lot of you with good answers. So if we check, then this was number 2. Can you describe the pain? It's quite a dull pain with a constant throbbing. Okay, number 3, the answer, they're not as intense as a migraine. Yeah, this was fine. How do they compare to a migraine? Number 4, anything up to 5 or 6 hours. Okay, how long do they last? Number 5, usually in the morning. So when do they start? And number 6, I'd say for about 3 months now. Yeah, so how long have you had them? So all of these are open questions. Some of them are direct. It's not like you have to ask every question has to be an indirect question. In fact, that wouldn't sound good. So you would need a mixture of indirect and direct questions. In the same way, you need a mixture, a balance of open and closed questions. But it really is worth practicing open questions. You can see all of these questions, they're not simply yes or no questions, but they're very patient-centered. They're inviting the patient to really give more information. Okay, so let's try and put all of this now into the OET context. And as I said to you before, it wouldn't sound good if every question you asked was an indirect question, or if every question you asked was an open question. You really need a balance so it sounds natural. What we're going to do, we're going to have a look at a short dialogue. We've got here a nursing task. If you're watching this and you're a doctor or a vet, optometrist, please just keep watching because you'll find this useful. And here in this role play, you're in A&E, you're in accident and emergency. And it tells you that the patient is presenting with a minor cut on the sole of his or her foot. Having examined the cut, you decide that it needs to be cleaned and bandaged. Okay, now your first task says this: find out how and when the injury happened, what the patient did after the accident occurred, and if they have applied anything to the wound or taken any medication. Okay, so in the exam, it's really worth examining, analysing your role play card. Remember, you've got 3 minutes to prepare. And like I was saying, put those 3 minutes to good use. You can see this is your first task, and it says find out. But really, if you look closely, you've got a few things to find out. It's not just asking one question, but you're going to ask a few questions. So you've got to find out. You're going to start with, excuse me, excuse me. Just got a cough. You're going to start with an open question, and then you're going to move to more specific closed questions. You're going to find out how the injury happened, when it happened, what the patient did, excuse me, and if they've applied anything to the wound or taken any medication. So actually what you've got there, when you look at it closely, you've actually got 4 different questions you need to ask. And again, you need to really be aware of your questions. You need to make sure your first question is open. You might want to use an indirect question as well. And remember, it's really important to ask your questions one by one. Don't ask all of these questions together. Let's have a look at an example, guys. So you're going to see a dialogue, and there's an audio as well. So if you can listen to the audio, and then you can read the dialogue while the audio is playing.
I'm just going to ask you a few questions, if that's okay.
Sure, that's fine.
Could you tell me what happened, please?
Basically, I was walking in the garden when I stepped on some broken glass. I don't know where it came from. I just felt something in my foot.
I see. When did it happen?
About a couple of hours ago.
Okay. And what did you do next?
I put my foot under some running water, then wrapped a bandage around it, and then I came here immediately.
Did you use any cream or ointments?
No, nothing. I just used a bandage.
And have you taken anything? Any medication?
No, none.
Okay. So you stepped on a piece of glass, washed and bandaged your foot, and came here straight away.
That's right.
And you haven't taken anything or applied any creams?
No.
Okay, John, thanks for that.
Okay, so there's quite a lot in there in this really short exchange, but there was quite a lot going on. Sorry. These were the questions then. We've been looking at questions, and you can see here the student, the nurse started off with an open question and then moved to closed questions. It's a really important part of the exam because it's a great opportunity to pick up marks if you can do this. And also the questions were asked individually. So they were asked one by one. She asked her question and the patient could reply. So make sure you don't ask your questions together because you're only going to confuse the patient. So the questions were broken up. That was really important as well. The first question was an indirect question, and the others were okay. The others were more direct, and that's fine. You can see at the top as well, when the nurse started the role play, I'm just going to ask you a few questions. This is a nice thing to do because it's something we call signposting. And again, signposting, it's something that you can get marks from as well. You can pick up a few marks. And signposting, when you think about a signpost, if you're driving, a signpost tells you which direction to go. And when you're speaking as well, the signpost will tell you which direction the conversation is going. So here it says, I'm just going to ask you a few questions. So the patient knows in advance, actually, I'm going to be asking them some questions. So signposting, it was a nice way to start the role play. If that's okay as well, being polite as well all the time. You want to be polite with your patient. And also at the bottom as well, you'll notice the nurse said something. She actually paraphrased back to the patient. So again, this is really important as well. If your patient gives you important information, you might want to paraphrase back to them. So you're clear in your mind that you've understood the patient and they know as well that you have understood them. So there's a lot of good stuff going on here. And so just go back. And you can see that there's a lot of opportunities to pick up different marks. Okay, guys. So we're just at the end here. It would be nice to actually have more time and go through our entire role play, but that would be another lesson for another day. And remember, when you do these consultations, put yourself in the position of the patient. If you can see these three pictures here, I'd say I'd be quite happy to be a patient of all of these doctors and nurses as well. Attentive, listening, smiling, and making the patient feel comfortable. So don't make your language too formal. Don't be overly polite or don't be overly formal because you'll come across as too much of an authoritarian figure, and you want to be relaxed and you want to be approachable. So remember, guys, don't be overly formal. Use indirect language and be polite as well, but keep it casual as well. You need to be approachable. you want the atmosphere to be nice, and if the patient has any questions, they should be able to just ask you quite comfortably. And as I said before, you need to keep your language casual, but do keep it polite as well. We've talked about indirect language and indirect questions, and looking at questions, moving from open to closed questions as well. So make sure you're familiar with open questions as well, and make sure you can grammatically form your questions accurately as well. In almost every speaking role play I've seen, you have to find out and you have to ask questions. So make sure you can form grammatically accurate questions. And of course, it's a speaking exam. So your intonation is important. Use the tone of your voice as well. Be confident. You're the medical professional, you're in control of this role play. Speak clearly, raise your voice, and but be sympathetic as well. We can be sympathetic by saying certain things. You're in good hands. Oh, everything will be fine. But excuse me, it's also how you say it as well. So use the tone of your voice as well to get sympathy across, or to get reassurance across. It's really important. Guys, we're pretty much at the end of this lesson here. If you do need speaking practice, if you go to our website, wles.net, there is an online speaking course, at the end of which you work with a tutor. You have 3 45-minute speaking practice, exam practice at the end. So if you do want some speaking practice, check it out. Just go to wles.net, have a look at our website there. And like I said, there's video lessons to watch, in fact, and tasks to do. And at the end, like I said, there are 3 lessons, which are 45 minutes each, where you work with a tutor. There's other stuff as well, wles.net. It's all there. There's writing, there's reading, there's online listening as well. Again, writing, you can have your writing marked with a tutor as well, if you prefer. In fact, there's all sorts of things there. There's packages as well. If you want to kind of do something a little bit more comprehensive, just check it out, wles.net. In fact, there's all sorts of things on our website, so please do check it out. We're running face-to-face classes as well in London. This was the group at the beginning of March. This was the last group that we had. We currently have a different group now, but these guys, it was a real joy working with them, I have to say. A lovely, lovely group of doctors and nurses. And they sat the exam, I think it was March the 5th. So we're awaiting results. So we are functioning here in London. We're in Ealing in West London. If you are in London, please do come in, just pop in, have a chat with us. We're always happy to talk about OET, or send us an email, and please do get in touch. And if you are taking the exam, guys, I wish you all the best as well. I know it is a tough exam, and with the right preparation, I'm sure you can get through it. Anything you need, wles.net, send us an email. Okay, that's it from me, guys. I'll see you again next month. Take care, stay safe as well, wherever you are. See you.